Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace, where friends get together and discuss the hit 90s space opera Babylon 5. Let's get started.
I'm Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Captain Asylum.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And today we're taking a look at the Season 3 episode entitled War Without End. So, as y'all can tell, this is a two-parter, and this one is a lot of setup. I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on how did you feel with this episode?
I felt a little fan servicey because we got to see the old captain again. Oh. And also it was nice to bring back some of the foreshadowing from season 1.
I was kind of struggling to keep up with all of the black and white, basically. Whenever it would go into not the present, just not knowing whether this is a dream or this is something that did happen or will happen. So that was a little hard to keep up with. And I think having next week's episode will help pull that together for me. So I just have to be patient.
Yeah, I got you. I know what goes on. And during this episode, I'll describe a couple of things so we can have a better understanding of what's going on. And then there is what's going on in the background, like behind the scenes. This episode is extremely important because, one, it shows the foreshadowing and like the long storytelling, the long form storytelling that J. Michael Straczynski and his crew were working on. And we get to see some of the pitfalls that they have to deal with and how this episode, this episode and the next one masterfully deal with those. So, yeah, there are some things that were difficult to follow if you haven't been sticking with it. But if you go back and you rewatch everything, you're like, oh, okay, this is how everything fits. So we open up and we're on Minbar. And this is where we get to see what the cities cut out of this crystal look like. The scoping of it is just not that great, but you know, it's the 90s. They had a lot of fun putting together their CG worlds. And also the music is a little weird. It's like a spa. The Minbari like to relax, so they like to meditate.
I figured, it was the where the religious class.
Oh, yeah. We have one Minbari that brings a box to another hooded character, and we get to see that it is revealed to be Captain Sinclair. If we remember, at the end of season 1, he was reassigned. Some stuff went down. Garibaldi got shot in the back. Sinclair was like, nothing's ever the same. Season 2 starts. We get a new captain, and they're like, oh yeah, Sinclair was reassigned to Minbar, and this is what he's been doing. Also, if you pay attention to his garb, it tells you a little bit more of what's going on. That they've been doing a lot of work on Minbar. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing one of the ranger pendants on his robes. And they do talk about the work that he's been doing there. So when that other Minbari opens the box, he looks at Sinclair. He's like, we did the instructions exactly as told to us. How did he know? And the camera pans on to the box, and it shows a letter that was sealed inside that was written in English that said Jeffrey Sinclair. And that's pretty wild because that box had been in the temple for 900 years. So yeah, how did whoever wrote it know that Sinclair was going to be there 900 years later? This is where the show gets to play a lot with its motif of destiny, of people being born to do a certain thing, and we're gonna visit that a lot more in this episode. Back on Babylon 5, the crew receives a distress call, and the distress call is coming from Sector 14, and it is Ivanova describing the destruction of Babylon 5. The wild thing is, nobody has ever sent a distress call that sounded like that before. So we are now understanding some weird stuff is going on.
Yeah, it was really weird to hear Ivanova sound scared.
I agree with you, Mel, because Ivanova is such a strong presence, and she's usually striking fear into other people, not this way around.
And we're going to see a lot of range. Honestly, we're going to see a lot of range from all these characters. I think this was a greatly performed episode. So just kind of stay tuned for what's coming from who. We go back, we see Sinclair. He's reading a letter. And the Minbari, they're having the conversations about the Rangers and building that up. And there is the insinuation that this person will not see Sinclair ever again. Sinclair, when he walks off, that Minbari says, like, this is a little strange. And then there's a Vorlon there for reasons, I guess. But the Vorlon says Sinclair is the closed circle and he's returning to the beginning. And he talks just like a Vorlon talks, which is, it sounds like nonsense when you hear them directly, but they're talking about like everything that's happening.
Yeah, they see the bigger picture.
It kind of reminds me, remember that movie Arrival? It was when those scientists found those aliens that visited Earth. They were kind of like squids or something. and the way that they spoke was in time circles.
And because they weren't linear. They didn't things. Okay.
That makes me think of what the way the Vorlons speak. They're talking through time, and so they can see everything, but like, poor old temporal creatures like us, we can't see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, back on Babylon 5, we have Sheridan, Garibaldi, and Ivanova. They're investigating the distress call, and they suspect, like, okay, this has to be coming from the future. Sector 14 is a weird place. Time is unstable. Or according to Garibaldi, time don't work right in there. And Garibaldi is like, hey, you should let me go check it out. Me and Sinclair went back a few years back. I think it would be a good idea to go investigate this. And Sheridan is like, fine, tell us what you find out. As Garibaldi is leaving, we get to see our good friend, buddy pal Zach, who is working security at the docks, and he's actually doing a good job. Can y'all believe that this guy is paying attention to what he's doing?
I was just gonna say he's at the dock of the bay.
He seems to appreciate his job more now.
Yeah. Maybe to keep him engaged, you have to give him a purpose.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why he got sucked into that cult.
I'm laughing, but because of the way it sounds, but that's true. And it happens. People look for purpose, and sometimes it comes from some nefarious people. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Zach is trying to split people up. This is also where you get a little bit of like a status of what the world is that day. You got non-aligned worlds, people who are part of the treaty and all that stuff. And it's like, those people over here, stand over here. Those people whose worlds have signed the treaty, stand over here. And then he turns and looks up, and there is Captain Sinclair. He's just like, oh my God, it's Sinclair. And they also clear some things up right here too. Sinclair's like, it's Zach, right? And Sinclair's like, yeah, it's me. Actually, I came to the station just before you got reassigned, so we didn't get a lot of time to spend together, which is great because it puts them both in the same place at the same time, even though I don't think they ever shared a scene together until this moment.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for the segregation of the unaligned worlds. It's like, I'm pretty sure through their documentation, you can tell who is who and what is what, but having the separated lines is like putting some kind of hierarchy in place amongst the people that could, then cause further problems. And Babylon got enough shit to deal with.
I wonder if they plan to address that at some point too, because that does seem to offer like a potential for some, I guess, conflict. But we don't really get to visit that here. So maybe next time. So we quickly switch over to seeing Lanier in a darkly lit room, and he's like, Delenn, where are you? He sounds like an audience member, like, what? Where are we? What are we doing? And Delenn is not talking, really. She's meditating in the dark. And she's like, is he here? Lanier explains, like, yeah, he's here. And they go back and forth. Delenn says, he's my friend, Lanier. And Lanier's like, I know, but if we don't do this, more people will die. So remember how for 2.5 seasons I was talking about Delenn is super shady?
Yeah.
This is part of that shadiness. Like, she knew something was up from the very beginning. Then part of it was she turned into a chrysalis and came out a hybrid. But there's more. There's another layer. There's 2 more layers to her shadiness in this.
She always act like she knew what was supposed to happen, but she played it as though it was more of a like she didn't actually know, but then she ended up having evidence.
Yeah.
She's like, I have faith in something that I have a video of.
Right. Like yep. We'll get to that shortly. But yeah, that's true. It's true. She had more evidence of what was going on. She knew. Then we quickly switched to Sheridan, Marcus, and Delenn. They realized, like, okay, we need to go check out Sector 14. We're going to get on the White Star. Garibaldi, while he is away, he discovers the giant time rift, which looks really cool in this episode. In Sector 14, and it is growing. Well, the reason that the rift is growing is because a large amount of tachyons are coming from Epsilon 3, which is the planet just below Babylon 5. When we switch over to see Epsilon 3, there's Zathras. His head is right in the screen, right in the camera. And behind him, you see the Great Machine. And he's looking down at something. And he's looking up. And he's shaking his head. He's like, oh, so bad. This is terrible. Zathras, of all people. Zathras from season 1. The crusty old guy with the furs. That was on the station. That was on the Babylon 4 station. And we are reminded, like, oh yeah, he got left on Babylon 4 when Sinclair was trying to save him. He was like, no, you need to go. You got a destiny. So we quickly switch to Delenn, and she is talking with the crew, and she's insisting to go to Sector 14 despite Epsilon 3 being the source of the problems. Sinclair and Sheridan, they get to have a brief little discussion about, like, the strange circumstances, because like, they're in CNC and they're having a discussion. Sheridan's asking all of the right questions and he gets beeped, and Sinclair's like, won't let you stop, will it? And you know, they move forward to their plan. During their discussion, Sinclair brings up, how did you know that this was going to happen? How did you know you needed to be here right now? This all seems like a coincidence. And Sinclair's like, there are no coincidences. And this is where we start to realize, like, Sinclair has been talking like a Minbari.
He's been talking like a Vorlon.
Right. Yes. And Marcus, who's right there with them having a conversation, he's telling Sheridan, like, hey, don't even try. Yeah. And he has this weird explanation of trying to understand some of these things about, like, hanging upside down. And I don't know.
Until you pass out.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a vision, and that'll be pretty much the same thing. So just let it go.
Just let it go, because your brain is going to explode trying to understand what these people understand.
Hell, they don't even understand. They just doing the best they can.
Yeah,
we trust him. He's right. The one.
He's the one. But and also, like, the people who do know the things, yeah, they're not going to tell you straight up. At least not right now. Give them a couple more acts. You might learn what is kind of happening. So Garibaldi is investigating the time rift in Sector 14, he sees a video of Ivanova reporting Babylon 5's destruction, and he sees this several times. And the way it plays out in the show is very like dramatic. You see the ship, you see the station is getting bombarded. You see the shadow vessels and fighters are just blasting into the station. It's really rough. I thought this was a little weird too, because Garibaldi is out by himself, which is very Garibaldi, but it also is very Sinclair, because remember back in season 1, they both would go on these little suicide missions. And I don't know about you, how many of y'all would be like, hey, a time rift is open, I'm going to go check it out by myself?
No.
Right. Especially after the last time they did it. So.
Yeah. Because he almost died the last time, but these people don't have therapy for the future.
Right.
So they still got PTSD, trying to just work through it.
Right. Back on the White Star, Delenn reveals the truth about the first Shadow War. And this is the thing, like before, when they were talking about the coincidences, Delenn says, like, we need to get to Sector 14 and I'll explain everything. You know, Sheridan is really like, I don't get why we're doing this. Why don't we move? What she reveals is during the first Shadow War, and she's showing like a holographic image. During the first Shadow War, the side of light, and that was pretty much led by the Minbari, was getting hammered. And they thought that they were going to be okay, but then their main base of operations, which was a space station, was destroyed. And they were distraught because they didn't have a base of operations to launch all of their fighters and to coordinate their attacks. And they were pretty much ready to give up the war and lose. But then something happened. Something very unexpected happened. A replacement just appeared. And they're like, what do you mean? And she shows a picture, and there's Babylon 4. And they're like, wait a minute. That's where Babylon 4 went? 1,000 years in the past? And she was like, yeah. But here's the thing. I didn't know that that's what happened until just a few years ago myself. I got video of what happened in the war, what happened just a few years ago, because the shadow vessels were taking a fusion bomb to destroy Babylon 4, because they figured like, oh yeah, that's the thing that came and beat us. So the shadow vessels were taking a fusion bomb to destroy Babylon 4, and Delenn pauses the video and says, we didn't really understand what was going on until we saw this. And they paused it, and there's Sheridan. He says, the White Star? Yes. So how long ago did they say it? 4 years ago?
Yeah.
It was something like a 4 and a 6 years. 4 years ago, something happened, and 6 years ago, something else happened.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 4 years ago was when Sheridan and, not Sheridan, when Michael was on there.
Yeah, Garibaldi and Sinclair.
And Garibaldi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sinclair. Yeah. And they barely escaped.
Yeah. And so,
which hasn't happened yet because what's his name hasn't seen him yet.
Right. But that's the thing. So it was 4 years ago, the White Star helped to stop the fusion bomb from destroying Babylon 4. And Sinclair was like, wait a minute, you mean it was us that stole Babylon 4? And she said, yes. We have to do this because this is going to help us win the war 1,000 years ago. And if we don't, we might lose that war. And then we get exposition on what would have happened. What she said was 1,000 years ago, when we were winning the war, we destroyed most of the shadow ships. Without Babylon 4, we won't be able to destroy that many ships. And so when they do come back this time, they will have overwhelming numbers, and they will certainly win now. Which now we're getting to see a little bit of the time loop and alternate reality effect happening. And they're trying to prevent the worst version of the future. And this also this also connects with the potential future destruction of Babylon 5.
There's a lot of bouncing around through time and story. So keeping up with it could be hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and Delenn's explanation, I feel like she does a really good job, but yeah, it's hard to follow because that war happened already. Like, they're in the past. It kind of reminds me of when Doc Brown was explaining the alternate futures in Back to the Future. And how, like, all this stuff already happened, but this one thing changed, and now we're in a completely different future. But here's the other thing too. It's a time loop because they always have to steal Babylon 4. And then another big thing happens that they always have to do. We'll get there in a few minutes. So Garibaldi confirms the potential future that he observed, Babylon 5 being destroyed. He says it will happen in 8 days. This is where Sheridan decides, like, okay, cool, let's go steal us a space station. If anybody ever watched Leverage, that's kind of like the catchphrase, right? Anyway, yeah, never mind. Forget it. As they're approaching Babylon 4, a ship from Epsilon 3 approaches them. They're like, what is this? Well, it's a ship that came from Epsilon 3, and lo and behold, it contains Zathras. I wanted to make another comment about this because the first time we saw Zathras, we only saw one, but then after that, we saw 2 Zathrases or Zathrai. He was talking to himself, which made me very curious at this point. Like, what is happening that there are more than one Zathras? And he's like carrying stuff around, bumbling, and when Zathras comes onto the White Star, he sees Sinclair and Sheridan, and he recognizes them, and Sinclair recognizes Zathras, and he even makes mention of it. He's like, I met you before. And Zathras is like, no, this is the first time we have ever met. And Sinclair, being as super sharp as he is, he goes, I know, I met you in my past, but you will meet me in my future. And he's like, I don't understand that. Like, that makes no sense. But Sinclair says, Zathras, I need you to make a promise for me. You're going to see me in the future. When you see me, don't tell me anything that will change things. Just don't mention anything at all. Do you understand? And Zathras says, yeah, I understand. And then his face turns and he's like, no, I don't understand.
Yeah, he's not very good at understanding, and it's like he keeps getting bestowed with all this top secret information,
right?
But he's not really gonna remember. However, like, he kind of slips up and then be like, no, just forget that I said that.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. And he's like, one of them asks, is there anything else you weren't supposed to tell us? He said, I can't remember right now, but when I remember, I'll tell you.
Right.
And I thought that was a really slippery question for the captain to ask. Like, what if he had answered your question? That could fuck everything up. Leave him alone. Like, let him be great and just do his one thing and stop talking to him.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. It was a fun little play on words and concepts of time there. Because remember, this is the first time Zathras has been there, and the first time Zathras has met them. But second time Sinclair has met Zathras, and we're just experiencing like the mindfuckery of time travel in real time.
It's kind of like that joke, who's on third?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Abbott and Costello. And it's been done in so many different versions. It's pretty cool, though. It's a fun joke. So what happens is Zathras gives everyone time stabilizers, and he explains, like, all right, this is a time stabilizer. When we're moving through time, this helps us navigate so you don't get lost and unstuck. And everybody is like, well, what is unstuck? And Zathras is like, oh, it's very bad. You don't want to deal with it. It's gonna be awful. And so they put these giant watch thingies on. They look like morphers from Power Ranger. Power Rangers.
Oh,
Um, and Sinclair has a memory as they're doing that, a flash forward of the time that he was on Babylon 4 that he had blocked out. And it is him remembering his flash on Babylon 5 when Garibaldi was going head first into a gunfight. And Garibaldi's like, this is what I was born for. This is basically one of those possible futures. And this is, we're going to talk through a little bit of this, but this is a possible future. They showed this in the first season and they never really addressed it. And so you don't actually know who is boarding the station at that time. So we're seeing two drastically different futures of Babylon 5 being attacked. One is they're being destroyed. Two, they are being boarded. So it's some wild stuff going on. If we take a moment, this would be our sidebar. The original story, and I found this on a video essay. So, take it with a grain of salt. We can explore and get the correct story. But from what I understand, before Michael O'Hare got sick, the way that they were going to explore this is it wasn't going to be the Shadow War necessarily. It was going to deal with the Minbari. And so they were going to revisit the Earth Minbari War again, and that's who was supposed to be boarding the station. But Michael O'Hare got sick, and they were making some changes about who is going to be on Babylon 4, who's going to be the love interest, and what the Shadow War is going to be about. So those changes, I think, did pretty well, but there are some remnants of that do come across as confusing because we don't revisit this possible future again. But if we look at when the timeline mends itself, then we're like, oh, it was only a possible future. We don't have to think about that again. The real future is this. And there was a part that I forgot. So remember, Garibaldi is out by Sector 14 by himself. And the White Star's about to go in. Sinclair knows what's going on. Sinclair doesn't. He specifically avoids Garibaldi while they're on the station. And at this point, he also tells Sheridan, like, the last time we were out here, things were really bad. So I don't want Garibaldi out here. Make sure you tell him to turn around. So when Garibaldi shows up to the White Star before they go to the rift, Sheridan orders Garibaldi to return to the station. He's like, yeah, but he's like, no, go back. And so Garibaldi makes it back to the station. Zach is asking Garibaldi, like, oh, hey, did you talk to Sinclair? And Garibaldi said, no. Like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, he was here. He left. And Garibaldi is kind of distraught because he's like, why didn't he want to talk to me?
And that's the part where even I get confused. The flash or vision or time loop that happened with the old captain and Garibaldi, I don't even know what kind of sense that makes or where and when that was or how it tracks.
Wasn't that what happened when they went on the ship before in season 1?
Yeah, that's when Sinclair had that flash.
So that was a flashback. That was a memory of the last time they went to Babylon 4. Mm-hmm. And he remembers seeing him die, but it was like a reflection of time or something.
Yeah.
He was in a time skip. He saw another timeline and he saw Michael die, go into his death. So he was like, don't come here. Don't come like, there's a possibility you might die, and we already know the idiot. So you it's like, oh, I saw him run into danger. Like, yeah, that looks like him. Like, he's gonna find a way to run into danger. And the whole place we already know is probably gonna be destroyed. So, he just wants to protect his friend.
Yeah, that's what. All right, I'm glad you got there because that's what I was gonna say. They're friends. He wants to make sure that his friend doesn't die senselessly in a alternate reality. And Garibaldi, yeah, he's confused. Like, why didn't Sinclair want to talk to me? But we'll revisit that in a second. The White Star does arrive in 2254. This is 6 years in the past. And they detect the shadow vessel moving the fusion bomb that's meant to destroy Babylon 4. And this is where Sheridan jumps into action. And they set up an intercept course. They fire on the vessels fire back. And this is kind of cool because we get some sci-fi space battles. They're not shadow vessels like the big starships. They are the little fighters. You get some turbulence from the White Star. Sheridan asks for status report, and Lanier explains everything. He's like, bro, we're fine. The White Star uses top of the line, state of the art Vorlon technology. This shit don't hurt us. All we get is just like the physical stuff. And Sheridan's like, okay, cool, great. Let's go in there. Let's go in there and do our thing, and we're gonna blow them up. And so they destroy the ships and they destroy the fusion bomb. But the explosion really damages the ship. It like throws it off, and during that explosion, it damages Sheridan's time stabilizer, and he disappears in time. When the bomb went off, Sheridan was like, yo, Lanier, let's get out of here. And Lanier's like, oh man, it's too late. And then they almost get blown up with the bomb, and kind of the White Star is caught up in the explosion. I don't understand exactly how the time stabilizer got damaged. It's just, we just see whatever type of energy that discharged from it destroys it. And everybody else seems to be okay. I guess this brings up another question. We only saw Zathras give those 5 people stabilizers. Did like nobody else on the ship get stabilizers, or it's like, for the sake of time, we're only going to show these people?
I did think about that. Like maybe they're not running with a full crew. Not sure. Skeleton crew.
I thought it was almost, my brain was on like away mission, like everyone else was going to stay on the ship, and somehow the ship was supposed to be stabilized. But if they got onto Babylon 4, they would lose that stabilization. So they had to carry something to stabilize them. Of course, the person explaining things don't remember everything. So
true. Yeah, like what is Zathras? He's like an engineer now, right?
Zathras?
Yeah.
He's a gopher.
He's a gopher. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah. So back in 2260 on Babylon 5, Garibaldi is like, maybe he left me a message, and Garibaldi finds out that a message has been left for him in 2260. And so he's trying all of these different passwords, and he's terrible at them because he's like, what would Jeffrey have said? And so he's using,
and that's why having a safe word and secret code words and shit with your friends makes so much sense.
Remember, folks, always have a safe word.
Hell yeah.
Sheridan is unstuck in time, and what happens is Sinclair moves to take command in Sheridan's place. And he reveals to Delenn that he knows exactly what's happening next, and that we all need to go along with this. And I had a sense that Delenn either knew something or didn't know something when he said that. Which, if we do a quick little review, Delenn knows there's something special about Sinclair, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, did she not know that Sinclair knew?
Didn't he keep it to himself?
He kept it to himself, and Delenn kept her message to her. Well, most of her message to herself, and she knew a lot of stuff.
He also kept his visit. Did he ever? I don't think he ever told her about the visit to Babylon 4.
No, I don't think so.
Their relationship is built on a bed of lies.
I'm gonna just go ahead and blame Delenn as much as possible.
Wow.
Look, I want you to bookmark this statement in this episode, because there's a very important reason why I'm blaming Delenn for everything. Because everything is her fault, but we'll have to have it revealed as what that even means.
Because there's no shame, there's no blame.
No, I'm blaming her.
For her.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Mel?
She got too excited. She was supposed to wait, and she keeps being cranky about things, and like she was supposed to keep her mouth shut and just be there when the time comes, like Kosh. But she kept telling everybody too much. As little as she told, and as cryptic as she was saying too much.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, you have a destiny. I'm like, why you keep telling me that?
Right.
That's what she should.
Because it comes across like everybody else is extra religious, but she just be knowing actual stuff. You know? So.
It wasn't, yeah. Everyone else kind of like Lanier is like, oh, well, I trust her because she believes it. And that's what the document said. But she's like, no, I believe.
Did she have all this information when she was being tortured by Jack the Ripper?
Yeah.
She had a good amount of it, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. So.
Because they didn't actually call that video that she showed the prophecy. But no. Technically that would have been, was that the prophecy? Or is the prophecy the what comes after this? The result of this?
I think it's the result.
Or like how they got the letters and stuff.
Yeah. Because the religious caste was on top of all of that stuff for a very long time. There is one little point that I wanted to highlight. In the White Star, when they were traveling through time, Sinclair and Delenn share a very touching moment. They're trying to soothe each other as they are going through this rift, and it's very worrying. So they hold hands, right? And we see that the camera focuses them holding hands just as Sinclair is watching them. And he smiles, and he's like,
He approves.
He definitely approves. And I'm going to just say that's a little foreshadowing. That whole thing. So just put that in your back pocket and hang on to it until next episode. So,
and it's not always nice to have the support of your community.
Yeah. So when we come back, we see Sinclair's taking command. So Sheridan finally pops out of his spatial rift. He's unstuck in time, and he lands in future Centauri Prime. And he is captured by Londo's guards, and Londo is like, it's about goddamn time you got here. You people just never clean up your own messes. Y'all came here and ruined everything. I'm gonna show you.
Stay talking to himself.
Oh yeah. Talking about himself too, right?
Right.
He's like, I'm gonna show you what you ruined.
You can't take accountability for nothing.
Right. On the outside, back in the regular time, I guess the 2250s. I don't know. Like the time jump is wild. But the White Star, the crew of the White Star, they're like, okay, we're gonna land on Babylon 4. We're gonna cut our way in. We're gonna get around. We got some ideas on how to do all this covertly. And so,
hold on, before we go too far, I just want to revel in the fact that there's a potential future where Londo gets the most prized seat on the throne, being the emperor, and his whole planet is burning. I was like, hell yeah.
I mean, you have to remember, Londo believed in the Republic. He believed in the old ways. He always believed that either he was going to be on the throne or he's going to be next to it. Then he gets the prophecy from the Oracle, who tells him like, oh, you're going to be emperor, but so is he, and one of y'all is going to have to kill the other one. So, and then in this future, notice that Veer isn't anywhere nearby. So, And also, as Londo is on the throne, the Empire is literally on fire.
Let it burn.
And he's mad. Like that's not what he does to other planets.
Right.
He was proud when they were doing it to Narn,
Mhm.
and now he want to find somebody to blame that it's happening to him when it's his fault.
Yep. And so in this future, Londo is blaming Sheridan because even though that the conspiracy of light destroyed the shadows, they didn't fight off all of their allies. And so the allies of the shadows have basically destroyed Centauri Prime. It's one of those like apocalyptic futures that you see from the 90s all the time. A way like what I kind of think of is like either Free Jack or Escape from New York. It's like everything is trash. And so we're given a glimpse of that. And then back on Babylon 4, the team, they finally make their way on and they divide into different tasks. Marcus and Ivanova have an idea to get equipment into place. Sinclair and Delenn, they head off together and Zathras carries the equipment. And this is where Zathras is like, Zathras is always beast of burden for other people's purposes. Very sad life, and will probably die a very sad death.
Oh,
He's giving very much house elf.
Oh my God, yeah. And so they're all going, and this is where the episode ends with a nice cliffhanger because there is a lot that they have to do, and there's a lot of story that we have to cover. But we're going to have to save that for War Without End Part 2. But where we are right now, I just wanted a few thoughts and maybe some predictions from the newcomers.
oh,
Oh geez. The recap, like us talking about it, really helps put everything in perspective, and I understand that. Or maybe I don't. Sheesh. With the captain being thrown into the future and seeing Londo's planet on fire, like, I guess, is that like set to happen? Because if it is, that's jacked up. Even though I don't like him, the people that he rules over, Veer, and maybe they got a handful of Veers down there that would be suffering. But that would just be jacked up, if a planet was suffering like that. I like how they're being very careful to like save Garibaldi, even though he's really kind of not that smart, and he keeps, hiding everybody else's information, which is funny because he is upset that his friend didn't come and talk to him. But you always keeping secrets and shit too. And so how is anybody going to have a problem with Delenn
Hold on.
when everybody
Garibaldi doesn't keep secrets. He doesn't tell people important information that he would tell everybody else. There's a slight difference. He's an athlete.
A serious delay or a fracture in communication on this show.
Yes. Okay, yes, I agree.
I'm complete.
And I guess you could say you can look at it as a little sad too, because like the one friend that Garibaldi has, like actual friend, is gonna be leaving forever.
who, Franklin?
No, Sinclair.
Oh, yeah. And he's got the other guy that works for him.
Him
Zach?
and the doctor are
Yes. Yeah. They be having their little dinners together.
But I guess he kind of lost his job. I don't know what's going to happen with him while he in rehab.
And that's the thing. They don't even have a rehab. I mean, that could be partially because they separated from Earth. But, like, if you know this is a thing, then why don't... I guess he could lose his license if he goes into rehab, which doesn't make sense. It's like as soon as he learned that he had the problem, he could go get help, and that would be the responsible thing. Don't know how that works.
Well,
But technically,
his buddies are really trying to pull for him too. Like Sheridan could have just been like, "Nah, man, you fired." But also, I mean, look, they're independent too, so the station is independent too. Where's he gonna go? Like, if he goes back to Earth, bro's getting court-martialed and put straight into prison.
Yeah.
So he's kind of in a unique situation.
Mm-hmm. He could go to Minbar.
He could go to Minbar and
He
go
could
through
just-
the Minbari rehab.
I mean, just live with the religious class. That'll be your rehab, technically.
He'll come back like Veer.
Yeah.
He wanted to learn from the Bimbari anyway. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Or maybe he just no, that would be bad. I was gonna say go to Narn. I mean, he don't want to fight so bad, like, but I think he realized that that's the problem. So if he needed to fight, they need to send Michael there.
Wow, so he can get shot in the back again?
He probably would, and he'd be so weak. Humans are weak compared to the Centauri and the Narn. He'd get knocked out as soon as he got there.
Any other predictions for what potentially could be happening in the future? The next episode, or whatever type of future.
I'm scared my predictions might be like suppressed memories of when I watched it as a kid. Oh, I think they haven't taken Veer wasn't in it, but I think he's like behind the scenes in it. And he's not gonna let it go. He's not gonna let go, but I think he's found some new strength. And he's gonna do something. Finally do something.
Yeah, a little bit more than what he kind of delved into.
Because she did say they both become king, but one kills the other. And I don't see Veer becoming king before Londo. Because he's not even motivated to be king anyway. And also, well, off subject of the question, the premise sometimes in some cultures of destruction of a society is an opportunity to rebuild. So maybe this is a good thing for the Centauri. Maybe they'll learn that being conquerors is not the best thing, which could also be connected to the possible new king after Londo.
Oh, that is so generous of you to consider.
Those are my wishes.
I got my fingers crossed for you.
Just burn the whole thing down and start over again. Like,
Yes.
y'all can't just fix that. So them getting burned down is probably a blessing. It's an opportunity for rebirth.
Now we're talking.
So are we saying that the Empire should be burned? Okay.
The roof. The Emperor's roof is on fire.
We are going to appreciate what good can come out of destruction.
There we go. Did we? All right. I'm not going to harp on my political soapbox because there's a lot of people right now talking about, like, no, don't burn it down. That is terrible. And it's like,
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta start all over again.
So, yeah, sometimes you gotta.
Right? It would be nice if you could do that without killing people, but this is humanity we're talking about. Well, technically, we're not talking about humans. We're talking about Centauri.
I mean, you can dismantle and rebuild without killing people. The problem is with the people who has their stuff dismantled don't like that, and so they're gonna try to kill people doing them dismantling. And then sometimes you gotta pop out and show people. Anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Are there any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. I cut myself off there.
All right, sounds good. So we have a little bit of a cliffhanger, and so we'll be back next week to continue War Rebellion Part 2. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Voices in Hyperspace. I'm Legendary Black Lion. You can follow me on Instagram at Legendary Black Lion. There's all these other social media things out there, but Instagram is the best way. You can find Voices in Hyperspace on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Voices in Hyperspace. Also share with your friends, like, share, and subscribe to our streams. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you can get your podcast media.
I'm Captain Mel Asylum. You can find me at melsrebellion.com. And by the time this comes out, hopefully Unruling the System should be available for sale, which you can find on melsrebellion.com.
Yay! Congratulations, Mel, on your book. Hey, y'all. Sunday, you're welcome. And you can find me at a poker table.
And we'll see you out there.